Hey everybody, this is Sergeant Shan with Check This Out. Black male voters are now highly desired. I'm talking to the brothers today. Gentlemen, I'm talking to you today. Wait, why is this like this, man? Just when you think you got everything set up, it ain't all set up like it's supposed to be. That's fine. Gentlemen, I'm talking to you today. You know, there's an article I read, and I'm going to read it today, that I read last year, right before, or no, I'm sorry. Well, it's one I read right before the election, one I read right after the election, but something that's super important. You know, people are way more political and politically astute today than they were just 10 years ago. Certainly 20 years ago. And I mean, it's getting younger and younger and younger. And I want to talk to the black men to let them know that their voice and their vote matters more now than ever. You know, when I was growing up, I just did whatever my parents told me to do. I mean, all the way into my adulthood. They said, vote for this. I voted for that. I didn't care. I didn't read it. We didn't, you know, and this wasn't just me. It was everybody in my generation, everybody in my neighborhood, all my friends. We didn't really care about the politics and the policies that was going on. We expected our parents to do and to learn and know everything. And what we're realizing now is they relied on mainstream media. My father, my mother, they all relied on television and news and newspapers and believed whatever was told to them. And now we're learning today there's a lot of fake news out there. We just didn't know it back then. I'm 52 years old. I was born in 1972. So can you imagine? You know, when I was able to vote in 1990 is when I turned 18. It was like no internet. There's no email. I didn't communicate with anybody across the country. I didn't talk to other people. We didn't compare notes as to how things was happening in New York versus here in Los Angeles. I didn't have any friends in Chicago or Florida, you know, DC, Atlanta. I didn't have any friends there. All my friends was right here in South Central LA. And we did what our parents told us, and our parents only did what the news told them. And now we're realizing that's not necessarily the best way to follow politics and to learn policy and to see how these politicians are screwing us over. We're learning day after day. I mean, just with the Department of Government Efficiency, we're learning day after day how they've been robbing us blind, man. For years. It's a good old boy system that's just going on, and they just taking that money like it was just, you know, candy from a baby, man. And black men historically always follow what mama said. And when he got married, he followed what his wife said. He did what she, you know, what we doing, baby? You guys have seen the videos. I didn't make the clips. You've seen the videos where men come get, you know, basically lambasted for voting for what he wanted to vote for. Maybe a guy would have, you know, some thoughts and say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Oh, you better do what she said. How dare you? I should find that clip. You voted for what? You threw away a vote? What's wrong with you? Men would vote for what his woman wanted just to make sure that he could get some nookie that night. But times are changing. Black men, times are changing. You're starting to now realize the power of your vote and your voice. And that's exciting for me. It's exciting for me because it's happening to me in real time, because you understand something. I was one of the ones who did what mama said. I did what my father said. I did not question it whatsoever. Now, me and my mother, we have really, really great intellectual political conversations. We talk all the time about this kind of stuff. And my mother admits, wow, I didn't realize that. They pulled the wool over my eyes. My mother's very smart when it comes to this stuff. But if the only information you're given is what the mainstream media is giving you, then what can you go off of? But now we can see, you know, that's with the proliferation of the internet and the invention of things like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, you can now hear the voice directly from the horse's mouth. It's never hearsay. It's not an interpretation of what a news reporter wanted to put out there for us to read after they did an interview of a particular politician. We hear it straight from the politician. They tweet it out. We know what they're thinking, and now we can put two and two together way better than we could before. And so I'm doing this video here today because I'm excited, and I want black men to know how powerful and strong they are. And I want them to be unabashedly and unapologetically politically astute, strong, and speak their voice. I want you to, if you need to become, or you feel that you are liberal, be liberal because you are. If you feel that you are conservative, be conservative because you are, not because you were told to be, not because your parents were, not because you want to get some nookie tonight from your girl, but because you are, and stand on that square, man. If you feel that you are a libertarian or you are independent, become an independent because you are, not because you were told to be, not because you were ill-informed, not because you were uninformed, because you're too lazy to go get the information yourself. There's no excuse. Everybody has a full-blown smart computer in their hand, and they can find all the information they need to know about anything they want to know about instantly. Let's talk about this first article here. Let's pull it up. This is the one I read last year by NBC News. This one here is October 20th. This was after. I'm sorry. This was right before the election. Black men are coveted, somewhat movable bloc. Are a coveted, somewhat movable bloc. 7 told us how they plan to vote. Hold on. Let's switch over to reader mode so you guys won't be distracted. Yeah, there we go. Let's blow this up. Let's read this. Let's go over this, you guys. Black men are a coveted, somewhat movable bloc. Voting bloc, 7 told us. Men from across the country share how they arrived at their preferred candidate. As election day approaches, the campaigns are putting significant time and attention towards courting black men. They never did this before, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't care what you thought. Your voice as a black man was insignificant. They didn't care. They only cared what your woman thought. They didn't care what you thought. And black men's voice is seen as critical and potentially movable. Voting bloc in a tight presidential race. Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have rolled out policies, dispatched key surrogates, and held events targeted at winning over these coveted voters. To get a sense of the challenges each campaign is facing, NBC News asked 7 black men from across the country how they plan to cast their ballots and what concerns they have about the candidates. A majority said they intend to vote for the vice president. We see how that turned out. But some said they initially had some trepidation about Harris, while others said they felt inspired to vote for her as a tribute to the woman in their lives. Oh, my God. I haven't read this article since last year, but now it's coming to me. And some men felt inspired to vote for her as a tribute to the woman in their lives. How stupid is that? Now, what I'm saying right now is something that men couldn't say for a long time. They wouldn't say it. They had no courage to say it. They had no backbone to say it. Do as mama tells you. Do as your wife tells you. Do as your girlfriend tells you. If you don't want to be in the doghouse, if you don't want to sleep on the sofa, do as she tells you. So some men voted. They didn't vote for their interests. They didn't vote for what they believed. They didn't vote for what they learned and gathered from their own personal research and development, or research rather. They voted as a ode to their woman because simply she was black. Sans the policy, sans if she's a good person for the job. But I voted for her because my woman black. Yo mama black. You know, that argument that you get. One man supporting Trump, one man out of the 7 supporting Trump said his wariness of Harris's work as a prosecutor in California solidified his choice. In several key battleground states, black turnout could help make the difference. A slight shift amongst some black men and historic gender gap with Trump performing better with men of all races has put Democrats on alert. In a new Howard University initiative, On a public opinion poll of 981 likely black voters in the battleground states, 81% of black men of all ages said they would support Harris. However, that number drops to 68% for black men under 50. Oh, compared to 21% who support Trump. Meanwhile, 88% of black men over 50 say they would support Harris versus 10% who are Trump. You know why that is? Why are the old men voting for Harris and the young men are saying, nah, I'm not voting for Harris? Well, there's 68% of young men who still raised by single moms. Mama can do no wrong. They're going to do what mama tell them to do. They ain't really worried about, but there's a lot of young, smart people. The millennials, man, and the Gen Zs, those kids don't give a damn what the OGs think. The OGs is at 88%. 88% of men my age, I'm 52, 88% of men over 50 is voting for Harris. You know why? It's because that's just what I've been doing, man. I ain't really tripping, Shan. I'm just going to vote for who, my girl. I just asked my girl, what we rocking? Man, I got to support the sister, man. I got to support the sister. Like, do you want to do that because it's for your best interest? Oh, man, it don't even matter which one is in. So I'm going to just go ahead and give it to the black girl. A less pronounced age gap amongst black women has been closing, of course, with 13% of those under 50 saying they will support Trump versus 6% of older women. In 2020, 80% of black men supported Joe Biden. This year it was only 78%, so it was only a 2% difference. According to a NBC News exiting poll, that figure was only slightly lower than Hillary Clinton's 82% in 2016. But much lower than black men's support for Barack Obama in 2012 and 2008. That's wild. 82% of black men voted for Hillary Clinton, who lost, by the way, to Trump. Only 8% of black men voted for Trump. And look how that turned out for you brothers. Most of y'all made a lot of money. Some of y'all became multimillionaires and got rich on Trump's first term, and you didn't even vote for the man. You wanted Hillary Clinton and Benghazi and that laptop and them emails all to be the president. That's crazy to read. Dana Williams, the dean of Howard University's graduate school and co-director of the Initiative on Public Opinion, attributes this gap to younger people who increasingly get their news not from mainstream sources. Can we get a sound effect? Where's my clap? Do I got a clap for that? Clapping is right there. Like I told you, shout out to the young folk. Shout out to the young folk. Shout out to the millennials. Shout out to the ones that's born 97, 95, 94, and younger. 95 is when millennials stopped in Gen Z, I believe. And I think Gen Z kicked in 95. No. Let me get. It goes 1970 to 1965 to 1970 is Generation X. And then 1965 to 1980 is Generation X. And then I don't know. And then 1981 up until 1995, I believe, or maybe it's 98, is millennials. And then after 98, I think is where Generation Z kicks in. Somebody can fact check that. The point is this. The younger you are, the less that you care about what MSNBC, CNN, Fox News says. You guys are talking amongst each other. Something that me and my generation, the Generation Xers, didn't do. The news was gospel. What mama said was gospel. What papa said was gospel. Dana Williams, the dean of Howard University's graduate school and co-director of the Initiative on Public Opinion, attributes this gap to younger people who increasingly get their news not from mainstream sources, which can underserve black audiences, but from alternative like social media and podcasts, which may be popular but not necessarily run by professional journalists. However, Cliff Albright, a co-founder of Black Voters Matter, a nonpartisan group that engages the Black electorate, said he has long been deeply skeptical of reports about this shift towards Trump. The shift, he said, is not significant enough for all the hand wringing, and that's true. It wasn't, because 78% of Black men voted for Kamala. The Harris campaign has been ramping up its efforts to court Black men. Quote, "It's very important to not operate from the assumption that Black men are in anybody's pocket," she said during an interview with the National Association of Black Journalists in September. More recently, Harris has rolled out a policy agenda aimed at helping Black men, including forgivable loans for entrepreneurs. By the way, that plan, the forgivable loan for entrepreneurs, wasn't for Black men. When you read the language in it, it was for everybody. She said it was for Black men, and you read it and it says it's for everybody. It was just a flat out lie. A lot of Black men fell for the okie doke. Not me, but a lot did. More opportunities for job training and legalizing recreational marijuana while also allowing more possibilities to enter that industry. Okay. She also did a town hall with popular syndicate radio host Charlamagne the God and went on the All the Smoke podcast hosted by former NBA players Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, where she was handled softly and gently. No deep, hard questions, and nothing that made her answer tough whatsoever. Shout out to the biggest truth seeker for joining. Everybody, salute.
Sir, yes, sir.
The biggest truth seeker for joining the Army. I appreciate you being here. Welcome to the military, sir. Welcome to the Army. I appreciate you. Who? For Trump's part, efforts to reach Black men through campaign surrogates or Trump himself have decreased in recent months. He does tout rappers like Lil Wayne and Waka Flocka Flame as supporters. Trump has also said that in addition to economic points in his favor, Black men are drawn to him because he has been through the criminal legal system. That's the kind of shit that I don't like. You claiming that your association, Trump, your association with us is not based on your ideology or how you move or how you stand on your square. You keep it 100 no matter who you're talking to or where you go, which I would rather be the association that you have with Black men. Instead, you're saying because you're a criminal, you can associate with Black men. Most Black men are not criminals. I don't like that shit. NBC News interviewed 7 Black men of various ages and professions from different parts of the country to gauge their thoughts on the election, Harris's viability, and the questions around Black men's support. Their positions were just as varied, but mostly they said Harris' presidency would benefit the country. Quote, "She's qualified and she's tough when she needs to be." Pierce Hodges, 23 years old, will cast his second presidential vote in November. He voted for Biden in 2020, but as a Howard University graduate like Harris, he feels more connected to the current candidate. And let's keep it real, man. That's the reason why he voted for her. They same alma mater. They went to the same college. Young guy. I bet if I can probably guess his background and where he came from. He voted for her because she's Black. What up, Machine? Good to have you here, bro.
Hoo-ah!
His mother and sister are Howard graduates, and both are members of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So his mama's an AKA, his sister's an AKA, Kamala Harris is an AKA. He went to Howard. Kamala Harris went to Howard. He didn't mention his daddy. So obviously he's not there. Come on, I told you can guess this stuff without reading any further. But that doesn't change the fact that the shift is happening, and we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna revisit what I opened up with about the change that Black men are doing, and I'm excited for it. Super excited about it. It's powerful, Hodges said, now a Columbia University fellow studying enterprise risk management. She is the representation of that strong African-American woman who is not afraid of Donald Trump, not afraid of a bully. She's qualified and she's tough when she needs to be. When Harris became the nominee, Hodges said his cell phone lit up. In every case, young Black men were excited. We were a very progressive group. my friends. So there was no talk of supporting Trump even before this, and definitely not after Kamala Harris moved to the top. Hodges said discussions with friends have centered around not letting Trump get back in office and Project 2025. Oh my God. We've debunked this whole Project 2025 thing ad nauseum, which is scary. We're just coming into our adulthood and we'd rather not have a dictator. Does that sound like a black man that's done his own research talking? Does that sound like a man that's done all his own research and done some critical thinking, analysis, and logical implementation talking? Or does that sound like he's parroting something that he was told? Hodges was only 7 when Barack Obama was first elected, so I don't know what the scene was then, but he said his circle is full throttle for Harris. We have a woman who could break the glass ceiling as the first black woman and Asian American president. He said, I could see someone in the White House who looks like my mother and my sister there and my girlfriend. This is a huge movement. Come on, y'all. This is my mother and my sister and my girlfriend. So I'm going to vote for Trump. He ain't going to get no pussy. His mama ain't going to let him back in the house. His sister's going to not let him borrow the car. His mama's an AKA and his sister's an AKA. Come on. I was really hesitant about her. Now, Jimmy Hill, whose son, Jimmy Atchison, was shot and killed by an Atlanta police officer in 2019. He was disappointed in Biden and Trump, citing their lack of action on police reform. But then, during a recent interview, Trump said he didn't know much about the Sonia Macy, who was shot in the face by an Illinois sheriff deputy. There's that brother there. I knew he was lying, Hill said. That really just turned me away. I said then I could never vote for him because him lying says he doesn't care what police do to us. He added that his son's mother died from a broken heart 2 years after his son was slain. So it's been tough. People need to be held accountable. Harris has gained his support just barely. I was really hesitant about her, he said. She needs to do more than lowering drug costs. I don't think she said much about police shootings. Of course, no, she didn't. There's no police reform, which is important to me, but we have a better chance with her. She was a prosecutor, and so I think she understands what needs to be done, and we have a chance to calm things down because she wants to help everyone. Vote for Trump, and if you get burned by him, that's your fault. We didn't get burned by him the first time. What makes you think we get burned by him the second time? We know what happened during the Obama presidency, those 8 years. We know what happened during Biden's years in terms of getting burned. He's made white supremacists bold. He's shown you and told you who he is. I will never forgive Kamala for her record. Now, Al Bartel, 68, a communication management consultant in Atlanta, said he supports Trump for 3 reasons. Based on his previous term as president, increasing access to capital for Black Americans, decreasing barriers to employment for Black people, and examining the role of arrest to incarceration. Though Trump supports controversial policies like stop and frisk and granting complete immunity in cases, it's not complete immunity, ladies and gentlemen, god damn, where law enforcement shoots civilians, Bartel said neither party genuinely cares about Black people. That's that old Umar Johnson position. They all devils. But he also bristles at the idea of supporting Harris for what he said was the over-criminalizing of Black men when she was Attorney General in California, even though there is no data to support that notion. Bartel also pointed to Kevin Cooper, a Black man on death row for killing a white family, as well as marijuana convictions of Black men. Harris's record as Attorney General is controversial. There has been concern that she did not fight against wrongful convictions secured through police misconduct, and she faced calls to take more active roles in efforts toward criminal justice reform. At the same time, her record reveals she was not tough on crime. She was not a tough on crime top cop, and that she implemented the Back on Track program, which provided nonviolent offenders many of whom were low-level drug dealers with the chance to receive a high school diploma, job training, and access to available work instead of prison sentences. Still, Bartell was resolute in his position. I'm not talking about who she personally prosecuted. The Attorney General has accountability for the entire state. I will never forgive Kamala for her record in the state, and that's what she's going to have to deal with, unforgiving black men. My daughter made me see that Kamala would be great for the country. Oh, God. James Douglas, guy my age. At the time of writing, I was still 52. He was 52. Of Detroit, said he was disheartened by the news that Harris would take over for Biden. At first, it felt like they bullied Biden out. Then, after a few hours that Sunday, his daughter, Marissa, 27, gave him a call. The energy in her voice was evident. She was thrilled, said Douglas, and an automotive factory worker, and I knew right then I had to recalibrate. So he recalibrated his skepticism for Kamala Harris, his 52-year-old brother, because his daughter, who's 27, now he's a factory worker. But because his daughter called excited, all of a sudden he wanted to recalibrate his decision. He didn't want to stand on his square. He didn't want to do any research. He just said, you know what? My daughter was happy, so I needed to switch. This is what I'm talking about, gentlemen. Like, this is what we mean by the gynocracy. Go back and watch my show about the difference between a patriarchy, a matriarchy, and a gynocracy. The gynocracy is what runs black communities, and men fall for it every damn time. I still think it was wrong the way Biden was moved out, but my daughter made me see that Kamala would be great for the country because the country has a way of keeping us down. Through systemic racism, he said. He didn't do any research. He just said, my daughter said it, so I did it. The economy, the southern border, and the other issues concern Douglas. So he was worried about the economy. He was worried about the border and other issues. But most of all, I'm concerned about democracy. He said, Biden did a good job of transitioning from Trump. But now that Trump is running again, I'm worried about him dividing the country even more. I'd rather the country have problems but not give up democracy and be so divided like it would be under Trump. He does not seem to believe in unifying the country. Douglas said, Harris is capable of bringing divides and inspiring others. What makes you think that, brother? Where do you get that from? Your daughter, who wants her to be president simply because she's a woman? Obama lifted us up because he was a president with dignity and represented us in a positive way and let black boys see that they can get to be president too. He said, Kamala Harris can do the same thing and really let black and brown girls and Asian girls see the possibilities, see that despite everything, there are no limits. I understand how big that is. I want that for our country. You want to be president that people around the world will respect. Stone Ramsey, a Californian who relocated to Atlanta, sees Trump as a force against foreign adversaries like Russia and China. He said it's his top reason for supporting the former president over Harris. Quote, the president has to be a strong person. That's a bar. And we've noticed that Trump's arrogance set him aside from most presidents. That's true, said Ramsey, who leads Street Groomers, an organization that mentors young black men. He pointed to Russian aircraft that flew in close proximity to the U.S. planes and China's spy balloon that flew over America during Biden's term. Y'all remember that balloon that was just flying? Other governments understood that Trump is not to be played with because he's dangerous, Ramsey said. You want to be a president that people around the world will respect? Kamala Harris doesn't have that respect. Ramsey repeatedly mispronounced Harris's first name, as Trump has on many occasions, and everybody misspelled Kamala. It's funny because she doesn't care how people pronounce it. You guys notice that she never cared how people pronounce her name because her whole life they've been saying that, but they make it a point of contention during the political process because nobody have anything else to complain about. He also repeated Trump's debunked claim that Harris did not identify as black before she became the Democratic nominee. Trump walked back his claim shortly after it received blowback from voters. Ramsey also said rhetoric that Trump is a racist rings untrue. You take Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather, he said. Mike Tyson said Donald Trump is the man. Do you think they would be around him if he was racist as people say? I don't believe it, and I think he's ready to do a job Kamala Harris can't do. I don't want to continue reading all these people. You know, we got another guy, he's a scientist, Patrick Oates, and another guy, Kevin Newell, 40 years old. The point is, they're starting to care about what black men think. They're starting to care about what black men say. They're starting to care about black men voters. And I want you guys to realize, you men, to realize that your voice matters more now than ever. And I want you, as I just explained to you in that article, as I illustrated to you in that article, how black men voted for not their best interest, but what the interest that was told to them by their mama and their sister and their girlfriends, their daughters. Mama, sister, girlfriend, daughter. The only one missing was the auntie. Told these black men who to vote for, and those black men acquiesced to that. Those days are over, brothers. Those days are over. Now on, brothers, I want you guys to vote your best interest. Now, if you are a Democrat and you are liberal, be a Democrat and liberal because you are, not because your mama and your girlfriend told you to be one, brother. Like, who runs you? You? Do you run you? Do you have any independent thoughts of your own? Or whatever mama tells you to do, that's what you're going to do. Now, in terms of conservative versus liberal, let's talk about this article here. Switch to reader mode. Young black voters are becoming more conservative than their parents. And here's why. This was written last year in August. Participants speaking at an event June 26th at Rocky's Barbershop in Atlanta, hosted by the Donald Trump campaign and billed as a Black American Business Leaders Roundtable in advance of the presidential debate between President Biden and Trump. That's the picture of them at the barbershop. Let's get into it. Jen Iro, a 34-year-old from Texas, have been having a hard time with the current state of American politics. The last time she cast a ballot was for the former President Barack Obama, and she doesn't think she'll vote this year either. Politics are not really important to me because as of right now, it seems to get worse and worse and worse, which really makes me more disinterested, Iro explained. Iro is one of the growing number of young eligible voters who are feeling disconnected from politics and unable to identify with a political party. With a lack of affordable housing, climate change, and rising costs, some millennials and Gen Zers are feeling hopeless about a political system that they don't believe has been catering to their needs. Generally, young voters and black voters tend to vote Democratic, generally. In 2020, 92 out of 100 black people voters cast their vote for President Biden. Only 8 out of 100 chose otherwise. While only 8 chose otherwise for President Donald Trump. However, there appears to be a shift. There appears to be a shift within the black electorate that has been widening over the years. According to Pew Research, 7% of black voters over 50 currently identified as lean Republican, while 17% of black voters under 50 align with the Republican Party. It's unclear how Vice President Harris, as the Democrats' presidential hopeful, will fare with this group. Look at that young man right there. He looked like he just turned 18 yesterday. People tend to grow more conservative as they age. I wonder why that is. Let me just stop right there. Why do people tend to grow more conservative as they age? You know why? It's because people get more wise, more wisdom, more on-the-job training, more time in service. Not necessarily smarter, not necessarily more intelligent. They start to gather more information about the bullshit that's going on when they get older. People tend to grow more conservative as they age. People do not tend to grow more liberal as they age. That's ultimately saying people move to the Republican Party, but Republicans don't typically move to the Democratic Party. Why is that? What is that about? What up, machine? But among black voters, younger generations may be the more conservative ones. You know why? It's because black kids are starting to pay more attention. If you're 35 and younger, you care about shit that when I was 35, we didn't care about. I'm going to just keep it real. If you're 35 and younger, you are way more politically astute and educated and informed than we were when I was your age. Shout out to you. In a pivotal election year, this conservative shift could have an impact on the upcoming presidential election. Approximately 40 million members of Gen Z will be eligible to vote in November. Of that 40 million, almost half are young people of color, including nearly 6 million black youth. Christopher Towler is investigating why IRO and other young black voters feel disconnected from politics. He's an associate professor at California State University in Sacramento and the principal investigator of the Black Voter Project. Black voters know the importance of elections, Towler said. They understand what it means to have representation, but at the same time, they don't necessarily feel like they're being represented by either side of the aisle right now. Towler thinks that a lot of black Americans who are less likely to vote or vote less consistently aren't seeing what politicians and parties claim as wins for the black community impact in their individual lives. Shout out to JT Coin Rings. My man JT Coin Rings in the house, man. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for the super chat. Why does my mic sound like that? Hold on a second, guys. I got to switch this over to the right. Hold on 1 second. Man, switch this camera on. There we go. Thank you, JT Coin Rings. Good to have you here, brother. Appreciate you. People may not see more opportunities for themselves as are often touted by the Biden administration, including lowering black unemployment or increasing black small business loans and grants. I think there's an overall sentiment that they want something to support. They really understand the importance of this movement, Towler said. But at the same time, they're not necessarily sure that their vote is going to change much. As part of the Black Voter Project's 2024 national survey, Towler examined the level of Republican support among young voters. In the data that I collected, the highest percentage of black people that say they're going to vote for Trump is among 18 to 29. The 18 to 29-year-old cohort, with about 22% saying that they'll vote for Trump, Towler explained. They're also the least supportive of the Democratic Party. Towler thinks this partially could stem from young people thinking of the civil rights movement as distant history. They're not thinking about back in the day, man. They talking about what's popping today, what's going on right now. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. They're thinking about what's happening right now. We're getting into generations of young black voters that are not just once removed, but maybe twice or 3 times removed from a civil rights generation, Towler said. The way that they form their identity is less likely to be directly attached to the civil rights struggle. They're less likely to be suspicious of political institutions, and they are more likely to support Trump and the Republicans. Bernard Fraga, associate professor at Emory University, has also noticed this shift. To Fraga, this is simply a new era of black voters. The narrative that the narrative that the Democrats kind of own the change issue as in the idea that people who want things to be different than they are now, that's been something that's been true for a long time, Fraga said. Now, there's some folk in the electorate, particularly young people, who see the Republican Party as representing change. R.C. Maxwell, a 35-year-old Republican from Arizona, has witnessed a lot of change within the party over the years. He doesn't remember seeing much conservative outreach to young voters or voters of color before Donald Trump ran for president in 2015. Now, Maxwell says the party is speaking directly to those groups. He also noticed more young people gravitate towards the GOP as they seek economic opportunities. Quote, "We want prosperity and we want secure borders and we want the American dream," Maxwell said. That's what the young kids want, who's really disenfranchised and can't buy a house in the neighborhood they grew up in today. I just wanted to add that part. And the only Republican Party, and only the Republican Party is speaking to this message because they have policies in terms of limited government, drill, baby, drill. But the Democrats, what did they talk about? They talked about transformers. They talked about transformers, gay rights. They talked about like really nothing. Nothing that spoke to people. Nothing that mattered to people. Kia Hopkins is a 20-year-old from Georgia who plans on voting for the Democratic ticket in November, but knows people here her age who are Republican-leaning or looking at a third-party candidate. The thing that I hear a lot is, if a person is really conservative, they really like how the economics are handled by Republicans. Hopkins said, usually with social issues, they tend to be more liberal, at least like my friends who maybe are in the middle or leaning conservative. They'll be more liberal on social issues and more conservative with economics. She says she has heard a lot of her peers say that they aren't planning to vote in the presidential election, and it concerns her. For people who say they're outright not voting, just scares me because this is a privilege that we have that our ancestors were able to fight for, Hopkins says. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of people that's broke right now. There's a lot of people that can't afford to eat. They can't afford their rent. And you sell it, and you running your whole campaign on social issues like transformers. You talking, your biggest message is abortion rights that haven't gone nowhere, that you have not lost, by the way. All while people saying that they cannot afford to put a gallon of gas in their car, if they can afford a car to begin with. I've been told for years, I was told in the 90s, when Republicans are in power, everybody gets rich. Then I experienced it myself. For some reason, sometimes you can't put your finger on it. You're not really sure why or how it works or where it's coming from, but somehow, some way, the bank account was always nice when Republicans were in office. I can't explain why. And it wasn't as a result of residual policies from the administration prior. It was as a result of the policies that were put in place during the Republican presidency. Listen, gentlemen, black men particularly, you are being desired now. You are a voting base that actually is starting to matter. Your voice is becoming more independent and you're doing your own research. I want you to keep it up. When your girl says, no, you need to vote for who I tell you to vote for, you can't get none, then tell her then I won't have none. Bye. Show her who the prize is. When your mama or your daddy, your old daddy, tells you, just do what your daddy says, do what your mama say, and your mama say, this is who you voting for, baby. You say, no, mom, that don't make sense to me. And she said, well, I'm not gonna make you no more them ham hocks and black eyed peas, and say, that's no problem, Mama. I don't want that high blood pressure food anyway. I don't need none of that soul food that's gonna kill me and send me to an early grave anyway. Black men, your voice matters. And I'm glad you guys are speaking up. When people say, oh, I'm sick of men with those microphones, buy another one. Every time you hear it, buy another one. I got about 20 mics, maybe more than that. Man, I probably got 20 to 30 microphones. Don't you let nobody suppress your voice. Don't you let nobody influence you as to what to think. Don't let me do it. Don't let another man do it. Don't let another woman do it. You do your own research and put 2 and 2 together. And when you come out with the answers, say it proudly. Don't be one of those closet conservatives. You know, you conservative at home, but you liberal in the streets because you worried about what people think. Don't be well, you ain't have to worry about being a liberal in the streets. Everybody's gonna love you. That's what the black people is considered to be. But if you are liberal, be liberal because you actually are, not because you were told to be. That's all I'm asking. What do we learn here? We learn your voice is powerful. Use it, brother. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, join the army, the SR Army, where we are taking lives to the next level. Go to srarmy.com, join for free right now. It is free for life to anybody that joins. I'd love to have you in our mastermind group. It's an iron sharpens iron group, an alliance of smart people that get together and talk about the 2 ships, relationships and entrepreneurship. And if you're interested in becoming better than you are today in any one of those categories, I'd love to have you over in the SR Army. Come on over. I'm Sergeant Shan. I hope you learned something. I'm just trying to save you some heartache, headache, money, and time. And you, my friends, are dismissed.